All right, folks, we are live yet again, coming at you from AI Literacy Week. A week really just all about supporting teachers and families and students and making sure they have all the resources that they need to understand AI and where it fits into their life, especially in the education space. Joining me today is longtime friend, Dr. Rachelle Dené Poth. I know her as Rachelle, and who is also the author of a book very applicable to this topic, What the Tech? An Educator's Guide to AI, AR, VR, the Metaverse, and like a million other things. Rachelle, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on this live stream. Tell us a little bit about your book. But before you do, folks, if you want to win a copy of that book, there's a link down in the comments, the chat. Click on that, fill out the form, and you will be entered in to win a copy of Rachelle's book. Okay.
Yay. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today to be, I don't know, on the live stream and talk to lots of people that are joining in. So I'm excited to see the comments and questions. So by all means, drop those comments and questions into the chat because I want to learn from you and see where everybody's joining in from. But yeah, AI is a topic that I have been researching for like 8 years now, which is hard to believe. And I dove into teaching about it about 7 years ago and doing presentations on it. And I always laugh when I say that because I didn't really know that much when I started. And over the years, you know, you build your knowledge and you get used to things. And then ChatGPT and all these other great tools come out at the end of 2022. And then you're like, now what? But it has been really exciting. For many reasons, because I've continued to learn from my students and the educators I work with. I've gotten to do a lot of research and writing over those 8 years now and put it into books like the most recent one, the What the Tech, that I made up the title of, driving home from work. And then the other one about how to teach AI. And it's just something I'm really passionate about and want to help educators and students be prepared, or at least as prepared as we can be for the future.
Absolutely. And, you know, these are big topics, and it's obvious why you have multiple books covering those topics. But I would love to know, just based on your research and your findings and your conversations, how is it that you are defining AI literacy? This is a question we're asking all of the authors and guests this week, but we're really trying to define this for folks. But to you, what is AI literacy?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because I've heard AI literacy mentioned so much more over probably the past 6 months. I can even think back to, I think, let's see, April. I was on a panel out in San Diego, and somebody, you know, they were just asking different questions. And I said AI literacy. And a lot of people in the room just started to have conversations about, like, what actually is AI literacy? What does that mean? Everybody's talking about it, but how do you define it? And for me, when I think about it as though, you know, for us as educators, for students, for whoever, people in the world of work who are learning about these different tools available through AI. And it's not just, I know that I can use ChatGPT to create whatever it's going to create for me. It's understanding things like, how does the AI work? Where do we see it in our everyday life? How are we going to use it in our work, in whatever our role may be, whether educators, students, people who are working in business, medical fields, but doing so in ways that we're evaluating what it's generating for us critically, carefully. And we're also learning how to use these tools ethically and responsibly. And for educators, I think what's most important too, and I spoke about this last year, and I continue to speak about it because there's more information coming out and you hear more stories and experiences. But I think it's putting it also in the hands of students so that they learn how to do all of those things, like analyze it, to use it to enhance their learning, not just for getting answers. And I compare it to, like, when we talk about, you know, digital literacy and media literacy, because learning how to search online, learning how to interact online, it's just like the next kind of evolution, iteration of all of the things when it comes to technology. So I wouldn't say I have one specific definition of it, but that's how I try to think about it. And most of that comes from the way that I started to teach my students in my 8th grade class. those 7 years ago is I went through those steps in teaching my class because I thought that's what I needed to do because I wanted them to understand, what it is, how it works, where we see it.
That's so important too, to just be thinking about all of the external and internal factors associated with this technology that has honestly been a part of our lives for some time now. We just haven't
Right.
interacted with it in this chat body sense. So I love that response. Okay, so we know that teachers are also feeling probably a bit fatigued on the topic. They might be thinking to themselves, okay, AI, I've been hearing about this for a while. What, give them a quick win. Give that busy teacher something that they can use AI for tomorrow in their classroom that isn't, going to take them a huge learning curve.
Right. Well, when I started, and this goes back many years now, but when I first started to bring more technology into my classroom, the reason that I did that was I noticed a disconnect in being able to interact with students, for them to be able to access me. So I went into like a messaging app, and then I had an LMS. So when I work with educators now, I always say, think about something that you do in your work every day that is either very time consuming, that's taking time away from your students, it's challenging because you're trying to think of new ideas, or I say it's something that you've taught so many times that it's just not working and the students aren't retaining it, or any number of those reasons. Like, whatever you dive into first, like, make it personal to you and something that's really going to be a game changer for you. And last summer, I did a training for world language educators. It was like a 7-hour virtual learning day. And at that point, most of them had not yet used ChatGPT or any other large language model. And I had them in breakout rooms, and I was having them just do activities with prompting and trying out the different language models that are out there. And when I went into this one room, there was a gentleman in there, and he just threw his hands back in his head, slid back in the chair. And he said, do you have any idea how many hours of my life over the past 5 years I have spent creating this type of thing? And ChatGPT just did it in like 3 minutes. And he said, I lost so much time. And I said, well, you did, because you did that before, but now you have this tool that can help you do that thing that in the past would have taken you 5 or more hours to do. So thinking about something that for you is that time consuming thing, or I like to say, what is something that you can do that helps you to learn about it and also involve the students with learning about it too? So maybe you're learning together using one of the different platforms out there built for education. So they're developing your AI literacy skills. They're learning how to use it to enhance and not replace learning. And you're showing them like, yes, I know about AI, because often students will think, oh, they don't know. And I joke, I say, oh, we know. Educators always know. We understand about it, but we don't know all the things about it. So just taking one thing at a time, because you don't want to do all the things, but just it's a progressive, like just add one thing and another thing, and just be willing to try it and maybe fail. But there will also be some wins in the process too.
I love that. I love that a lot, and especially kind of walking them through how you've used AI in your processes to,
Yeah.
show them. Okay, I want to shift gears here a little bit. We're almost out of time, but I want to talk a little bit about the conversations going on at home and internally with families, because we know that AI is not just impacting the educational space and homework and the idea of whatever it is going on at school. We know that parents are coming home having similar conversations about AI at work and how it's impacting their role. So what's happening around the dinner table? What's a good conversation starter we should be having?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, because in the last, probably at least in the last year, obviously more people are using AI in their classrooms, they're more familiar with it. And I think about the people who aren't still in the classrooms and who are out there in the world of work. And so looking at families supporting students at home that may not have the training or understand exactly how these systems work. And so I think students going home and sharing what they're doing in the classroom, if they're using different tools like chatbots, and say like, hey, today in my Spanish class, I got to have a conversation with a chatbot in Spanish, and I felt way more comfortable interacting with it. But then also the communication piece, and making sure that, like in my case, every year throughout the year, I always send information home to families that says, this year in my class, we are going to be using a variety of tools and technologies, some of which include AI. Here's how they're used. And then I also give some reminders. And so at home, having conversations about, like, for students, oh, this is how we use it. And I learned that I shouldn't put in personally identifiable information. And this is how it benefits me. But also on the family side, and those that are supporting the students, giving feedback and kind of being there, especially with younger learners, helping them to understand how to use it in a safe way so they're not putting in that personally identifiable information. And then also finding a balance with the use of AI, because that's another big question with, like, screen time, especially for younger students. I've heard that a lot. It's, we want them to learn about it, but there's too much technology. And so you can have learning about AI without the use of technology, because you're talking about how it works. You're just thinking about where you see it in life. And so it should just be an ongoing conversation that happens to support the, home to school connection.
Yeah, I really like that. And I love this thoughtfulness you have around too much exposure to this stuff, because we all know that tech is good, but it's just the tool.
That's right.
Okay, so we're almost wrapped up here. We're trying to keep these to about 15 minutes. So I want to ask you a little bit about, to bring it back to the book. If a teacher's going to read your book, what's something concrete they're going to walk away with, or a new skill they're going to have?
Well, the fun fact about any of my books I've ever written is you really don't have to read them from cover to cover. I hope you read the whole thing, but the way it just somehow happened is that they're organized by the different concepts. And so in the What the Tech book, it was basically focused around the STEAM course that I made up about all of those different topics: AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, metaverse. And they're things that, as educators, depending on how long you're going to be in education and just even in the world, we're seeing and hearing more about those topics. And you might be thinking, blockchain, like, how is that relevant to me? So when writing that book and coming up with that name, driving home, thinking about all of the things that educators are juggling, it just came out of my mouth. I'm like, what the tech? And then I thought, oh, okay. And I giggle every time. So one of my students said, that's not that funny. But then they came back and said, I actually kind of like that now. But I hope that they take away that you don't have to be an expert and know everything, all the, technical details about all of these things, because I certainly don't know all of those things, like, in depth, like some do that do that work. But the thing is, when you read the book, whatever chapter you decide to focus on, there are other stories in there. There's insights from students, from educators, from people in the ed tech industry. There are sample ideas that you can use for your lessons. And so it's just a hands-on guide to just pick up an idea, try something, have a conversation, learn a little, and have some fun.
I absolutely love that about ed tech books and books for teachers, because when you chunk it out into those bite size, it becomes one of those references that you go back to over and over, instead of a one and done read.
Right.
So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Folks. Excellent work. If you're not following what's going on with Dr. Poth, you should definitely be checking out her work online and on her website. Let us know, where can folks go to find more about your show?
I'm very consistent. So if you're on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, Blue Sky, it's the RDENE915. You want to send me an email, add the Gmail to that. You want to check out my blog site, put the www in the front and the .com in the back, and you'll find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn, and if I can help anybody with anything, I'd be happy to. And if you have something to share to teach me, I would love to learn.
I love it. Well, you heard it there. You know where to go. Click the link down in the chat or the comments to enter to win a copy of that book, What the Tech, really to future-proof your pedagogy, it sounds like. But take us home. One last thing, Dr. Poth, what do you want to leave them with?
Oh, I would say my best advice is, don't wait for, like, the perfect moment, the perfect time or anything, and think you have to have everything all prepared. Just go for it and be open with your students. If you're working with students or you're working with teachers, whatever your role is, and say, hey, you know what, today we're going to start learning about blockchain, or we're going to talk about AI, and just start with a conversation. And you'll see that like you don't need to know all the things, because in the process of that, you're going to learn so much from those that you're learning, well, you're leading and learning with. And so I say, just dive in, have some fun, and let us know how it goes. I would love to hear.
Rachelle, you're always brilliant. Thank you so much for your time and energy. And until next time, see you soon.
Thank you.